This is so stupid. This is so stupid. This is so much drama, but this is so dumb. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real recap and review, and a little bit later on, a little bit of a reaction to week 3 of Love is Blind, season 4, episodes 9 through 11. A huge thank you to Netflix for giving me the chance to watch these episodes early for review, because guys, there's just so much to talk about, and this might be the most dramatic week yet of the season. I mean, things hit the fan. Things hit the fan. I'm not saying the other word. We're 1 week away from weddings. That's right, episode 12 is next week, and then after that we have the live reunion at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's on April 16th, and I will be reacting to it right here on the channel because it's live, and that means questions will be submitted by fans live and answered live. I cannot wait. You can't edit your way out of this one, Netflix. It's gonna be dramatic. Oh man, it's gonna be dramatic. So like we always do with Love is Blind, I'm going to be giving you my spoiler-free thoughts first, then we're going to dive into a reaction, of course, spoiler territory, for a certain scene between Jackie and someone, and then after that we'll get into my spoiler recap, and yes, there are time codes below if you want to skip through and get to your favorite section, and let's chat about it down below in the comments too. So when you're done with the video, don't forget to leave a comment down below, like this video, and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. Heck, you can do that right about now as I intro the channel, because if you're not familiar with who I am, I'm Real James, someone who loves talking about movies, TV, and all the news in between. So again, if you do too, go ahead and join the Real family and tap on that big red button below and subscribe, and tap on that bell, because y'all, you don't want to miss out on the next 2 weeks of Love is Blind coverage. Oh man, it's gonna be so fun. Alrighty, y'all, well, you know what? Let's waste no more time and begin with my spoiler-free thoughts on episodes 9 through 11. Like I mentioned, my goodness, this week had some really high highs and some incredibly distracting lows. So I do want to begin with the editing, because the editing was pretty awful this week. It was rough. You can tell conversations didn't necessarily have time to be fleshed out, or there were maybe bits of dead air cut out that led to very awkward responses and timing. I'm thinking of a certain conversation between Zach and Bliss in this hot tub. It was odd, right? And I don't know if they intentionally meant for the editing to be bad, but it was way too choppy for my liking. But luckily, the drama was still felt. I mean, there were so many moments of tension, and there was a lot more focus on a certain couple that I was really hoping they would focus on this week. That's right, Brett and Tiffany, my #1 couple in season 4 of Love is Blind. They paid them much more mind, and they were able to show us a side of their relationship that they hadn't really dove into yet, which was a bit of stress and conflict to a degree. Maybe, you got Tiffany a little bit stressed, and we'll talk more about that in the spoiler discussion, but I like the way that Brett handled it. So it was nice to see a different layer inside to the relationship, because lately it's been all sunshines and rainbows, but we know relationships are not always like that. So it was really nice to see them focus and give them more of a spotlight. And I will say, the pacing for all of these episodes this week was pretty good. Each episode breezed by, and I have to really say that's because of all of the tension and the what ifs and what's coming next. There was a lot of intrigue here, and I'm really glad that this week's episodes were, I would say, much better than last week. I will say there was a certain sequence of events that felt downplayed, and it was really noticeable. The Bachelor and Bachelorette parties were really lame this season, even last season. I don't think they've ever been good in this series overall, but it felt particularly minimal here. I mean, there were certain moments, and we'll talk about it later, where I'm like, that ain't, no, that's, no thank you, please, what are we doing here? But the wedding dress and tuxedo shopping scenes, I thought, okay, they'll be able to hold some water. Not really. Again, just didn't really feel like it was, well, impacting the plot in any way. So yeah, overall, I was a fan of Love is Blind this week. It really actually worked for me, and it made me more excited for the finale and the live reunion, especially because of one sequence or one scene in particular that is going to create a ripple effect in the Love is Blind community. You're either going to be for this person or against them, and I have a funny feeling there's going to be a lot of people against this person. So let's now dive into spoiler territory. Again, if you have not finished this week's episodes yet, go ahead, save this video to your watch later playlist, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up button if you can, and then we'll talk about it down below when you finish, because there's a lot to get into that I have to now start spoiling for all of you. So let's begin and get into one scene that it's just It's bonkers, guys. Yeah, that's right. Jackie and Josh sitting in a tree, apparently. KISSING. Yes, that happened. Well, looks like they're going to be a thing. All right, let me not get ahead of myself. And let me show you what my reaction was when I was watching that live. All right, transition. All right, Jackie didn't show up to the dress fitting. Not great. What's she doing at this coffee shop, though?
Hello, hello.
Whose voice? Did Josh bring her flowers?
You got me flowers.
Why is she this whole like cute voice she's doing here? This like,
God,
oh,
that's
that's
so
so cute.
You know, I'm a romantic brother, you feel me?
Did she just jump ship?
Losing you is my biggest regret.
She's entertaining this.
I do love you.
Oh, he said he loves her?
And I was immediately attracted to Josh.
She said she's attracted to Josh?
First, I didn't even see you. I heard your voice.
Nope. Marshall,
Your
run.
voice is so distinctive, like
Run.
I'm used to it that I instantly
That's
knew
not
it
right.
was
That's
like,
no, that's toxic.
like, all the hairs on my body like stood.
I feel bad for Marshall right now. I'm not gonna lie, y'all.
That's
What? What?
This is disgusting me. This is gross. I feel gross. Josh, homewrecker.
I want to be together.
Jackie, undercover snake.
I want to know where your head's at.
Jackie should just dump Marshall.
Yeah.
Why is she like, this is weird.
You shouldn't have said yes to Marshall.
Josh, you arrogant smug.
Does he know that you and I are talking at all?
No, Marshall doesn't know. Clearly Marshall doesn't know y'all are talking. If he did, he'd be
I
there
robbed myself from
beating Josh.
That's my biggest regret.
Wait, Jackie said
Chose wrong.
she chose wrong?
You see yourself marrying
She encouraged Marshall to figure it out. In a way. And Marshall did. In the pods.
But the legal marriage part is scary to me.
Girl, you ain't getting married.
You want,
They ain't even going to the altar, dog. Come on now.
I'm willing to be with you and see where things go, and I'm willing to, you know, just try.
She's willing to be with Josh? While engaged still with Marshall? Nah, bitch. Call it off, Marshall. You better get your Usain Bolt on and run. This is gross. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. This is so much drama, but this is so dumb. So yes, you guys, cannot believe that actually happened. Jackie is all over the place. So safe to say, yeah, Jackie and Marshall are not really a thing. But let's talk about who's with who right now. And that is Brett and Tiffany, thank goodness. Micah and Paul, Kwame and Chelsea, but maybe not for long. Zach and Bliss, surprised by them too. And then there's Jackie and Marshall, who are no longer together. So guys, we're gonna have to cross them off the list. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory after what we just witnessed, right? They were not going to work out after that. There was the point of no return was reached by Jackie and Marshall's mind. So it's crazy, and yes, we're going to talk about it too. Like I mentioned at the top, though, we got 10 days until weddings. The engaged couples are getting focused and ready for their wedding day, right? And now they're going to find their tuxedos and wedding dresses, and Marshall was getting fitted until he found out Jackie wasn't getting fitted for her dress. It's insane. And then, of course, there's this triangle of drama that is now drawn out. I think I drew a triangle. Don't hurt me if I didn't. But guys, Josh, Marshall, and Jackie are in a triangle, sort of. I mean, I think Marshall's calling it off. Jackie is definitely done with him. So now it's not a triangle. It's more like a very weird line between Jackie and Josh, y'all. Yeah, that happened. And I knew things were going to get weird when they showed Marshall showing up for his tuxedo fitting. And then I looked in the room with the ladies and I'm like, huh? Jackie's not there? And then, of course, Brett tells Marshall that Jackie didn't show up to the dress fitting. And now he's starting to get really confused and possibly kind of angry and sad at the same time. I thought I saw some tears in his eyes, honestly, during those off-camera interviews. But it's not that Jackie didn't simply not show up and she was at home and maybe thinking about things. No. She went out of her way to go to a coffee shop to meet with none other than the turtleneck disaster himself, Josh. Yeah, the man who was drunk out of his mind last week. It baffles me. It baffles me that Jackie's even doing this. Like, alrighty. If you don't want to be with Marshall, just call it off. But instead, She's still engaged with him at this moment of time, you guys. And she's meeting Josh. He brings her roses. They sit and have a conversation. And she does the unthinkable. Jackie begins entertaining Josh. And Josh is telling Jackie that he loves her and wants to be together. And then Jackie says she's willing to be with Josh and see where things go. See where things go? She's totally wrong for this. I'm not at all empathizing with her in this situation or sympathizing, because later on she has a conversation with Marshall and we'll talk about that too, but I cannot believe she's doing this. Like, how immature are you to do this? And you're humiliating your fiance on national television. It's insane. And then Jackie talks bad about Marshall to Josh's face, saying that Marshall is too sensitive. And eventually Jackie says, yeah, I'm attracted to you, Josh. And then they kiss. Both of them are for the streets. Both of them. Like, come on, man. What are we doing here? Like, this is ridiculous. And you know what? This also sets a weird precedent for the show where you can just go back and date other past contestants and pod guests and mates because now you know what they look like. It's odd. One of my friends, Kristen, actually a fellow critic who also reviews Love is Blind, mentioned that it is a slippery slope that they're setting in season 4. So, guys, this is crazy. And of course, you probably know what Jackie and Marshall talked about, right? So, yeah, let's dive into their conversation too. It's a mess. Jackie's reasoning for them not working out and for her jumping ship is because she says, and I quote, "The outside world got to us." Okay, Jackie. First of all, Marshall, and maybe he did things off camera that we didn't see, right? So, maybe I'm going to reserve speaking in absolutes. But from what we saw, Marshall did everything right. It was Jackie who was unfortunately getting in her own way and admitting that she's self-sabotaging situations. So the outside world didn't get to them. I think the outside world just got to you, Jackie. And that's not great. To use that as an excuse to then cheat on your fiance, it is terrible. And then Jackie takes it one step further and actually tells Marshall to his face that she's attracted to Josh and doesn't want to be with Marshall anymore. So Marshall at this point went from "I'm sad" to "I am furious" and says, "I want the ring back. Give it to me. I didn't pay for it, but give me the ring back. Netflix gave it to me, but give it to me so I can give it to Netflix." Is basically what he was telling Jackie. But Jackie says, "I think I'll keep it." Like, girl, what are you going to do with it? I guess Josh is thinking, oh, one less thing for me to buy. I don't know. This is ridiculous, y'all. Absolutely ridiculous. So Jackie says she's, on the contrary, not sorry that she's not able to be with him. You would think if she had a remorseful bone in her body, she would say something like, "I appreciated the times we had together, and I'm sorry it didn't work out. I am." But instead she says, "I'm not sorry that I can't be with you." So Marshall says, "I'm gonna pack my stuff and leave," and he did just that. Good for him. Run. You all were saying Marshall needs to run. I guess you're right. They fooled me. They fooled me in the first week of season 4. I thought they were gonna be okay together, but I guess not. So Jackie and Marshall are no longer a thing, and are Jackie and Josh a thing? I guess we'll find out at the live reunion. Oh, please, somebody ask good questions, please. Alrighty, y'all, so let's pack our own bags and move out of Toxicville and dive right into less toxic situations. It's time to shop for wedding dresses. Exciting, because Tiffany's dress was the absolute best one of the bunch. That's right. Tiffany is so thoughtful too, y'all. Tiffany is so thoughtful. She said, "I recognize that Brett loves like details that are subtle, yet when you get close, you can realize them." So she went for a dress that had some amazing detail to it, and it looked really beautiful. And I think, in my opinion, she had the best dress of the bunch. So go ahead, Tiffany, go ahead. And then there's MICAH'S dress. It's very non-wedding dress like. Does that make sense? Her first choice was more like a wedding dress than her second choice, but hey, if she likes it, right, y'all? You probably can finish that phrase. If she likes it and she loves it, then fine. Fine. Okay. She enjoyed it. Her mom enjoyed it. Fine. At least Shelby didn't have anything to chime in and say until very later in the show. But still, I thought, it didn't look like a wedding dress to me, but it is what it is, And then there's Chelsea who walks out, and Chelsea's dress is, I'd say it's nice. It's very Chelsea. You know what I mean? Not a lot of pink. I mean, in terms of like what her design choices have been like in terms of her outfits, it really does complement and match her wedding dress. But she continues to reiterate how all in she is on Kwame. And I'm like, Man, why is the show hammering home this point? Are they setting up for something that we've all probably been predicting will happen all along at the altar? We'll see. So we're going from many tears in a dress shop to a lot of conversation and not many tears in a tuxedo shop because the guys are trying to get all spiffy for their wives-to-be. It was a fairly toned down segment compared to the previous seasons. I think the most dramatic moment was Marshall finding out Jackie's not at the dress fitting. But other than that, it felt kind of fine. You know, it was okay. It breezed by. I will say one thing that stood out to me, and the only note I have for this section, is that Kwame brought his pod friend with him. So part of me's thinking, like, is Kwame really serious about this whole thing? He's been hinting that, you know, he's going to get cold feet, and I don't know. I don't think he's serious right now. You would think he'd bring maybe one of his good friends that he's maybe done life with for the past few years or something, but a pod mate? Okay. So Kwame is still talking about how this next step is making him feel like he's making every sacrifice. So I honestly think he just needs to call it quits because he's saying everything except for I'm done. I mean, the dude keeps bringing it up and I'm like, all right, well, if it's not working, if you feel like you're compromising, maybe y'all should take a little bit more time before you get married. Instead, well, I have my predictions and thoughts, y'all. But we're gonna get there. So now let's move on to the Bachelorette and Bachelor parties, guys. Woohoo! The guys going out, the girls going out. All right, sort of, because it seemed kind of boring. However, I will say at the Bachelor party, I am actually giving props to Zach for saying he's not into the whole dancer thing, the burlesque show that was being put on. Because you know what, homie? I'm right there with you. I ain't into all that at all, okay? And all the other guys seem to be into it, but the cameras cut away really fast, so at that point, I don't know what the heck happened, but, you know, it was interesting to see that they still honed in on the Chelsea Kwame situation. You know, again, we get this bar-side conversation with Kwame saying basically he can't confidently say yes to Chelsea at the altar. At this point in time, one of his friends asked him, hey, can you see yourself saying yes? And he just laughed it off. Not a good sign. So let's check in with the ladies at their bachelorette party. Well, it's not going much better over there either. Instead, Shelby's got a lot to say with Micah. Yeah, I don't know. Shelby, man, just cut it out, all right? Paul's not a bad guy from what we've seen. So can you stop treating him like he's public enemy number one? Because at this point, Shelby, you're another snake in the garden. So Micah drunk FaceTimes Paul. All right, do you, girl. But she is really favoring the bottle this episode. And then Shelby eventually tells Micah after she hangs up with Paul that, hey, Micah, Paul isn't it. And they're so drunk at this point. Like, you needed subtitles for the subtitles. However, what is Shelby doing? It's Micah's bachelorette party. And you're coming in here telling Micah that Paul isn't it. And in the off-camera interviews, Micah's like, basically, I don't care what Shelby has to say. I love Paul. And bless her heart, she like misses him so much at this point. She's like, I just want to be with him every second, which is okay, fine. But Shelby is, I don't like it. I don't like the way Shelby's acting, but y'all let me know down below in the comments. Do you like how Shelby is acting? Because she annoys me. But there are some other interesting takeaways from the bachelorette party. One of them being Bliss saying she doesn't know if she's fully ready to marry Zach. She slid that into a conversation piece there. It was like an off-camera interview, I think. And I don't know, man, that's not a good sign for when they get to the altar. At first, I'm like, you know, they're not going to work out. Then he proposed to Bliss, and I thought, okay, it's kind of cute in a sense. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think Bliss is still harboring on the fact that she is option number 2 for Zach. It's tough. And then Tiffany's friend brought up something that you all actually brought up in the comments in previous episodes, where she said, I really hope, Tiffany, that you and Brett know how to navigate any conflicts that come up. And it's true, they haven't really had to deal with conflicts. In a sense, they deal with a bit of an episode, like a stressful moment with Tiffany, and Brett deals with it nicely. So let's not waste any more time now and dive into that and much more in this section, where we're going to just talk all about our engaged couples, because there are some talking points here. Why is Kwame and Chelsea's section so long? All right, let's just talk about them. Apparently, Kwame feels like he's ticking off Chelsea, and they're really just not seeming like they're enjoying each other's time, at least at the start of this week's episodes. At this point, I think Kwame is tapping out. He's doing everything he can to put up some mental blocks in his mind and make some excuses, because I just think he still can't get over the fact that he has to move to Seattle. He's leaving behind his comfort zone, and he also doesn't like that he's making all the compromises. To a degree, I still see him making more sacrifices, yes, but it just feels like he's not ready, and he doesn't even want to take those next steps with Chelsea. So, boy, it's odd. And then his choice of words are really odd with her as well, where he says he feels like it's suffocating, and that's not great. However, there was a moment where Kwame was trying to be real with Chelsea, and she's laughing at him. That's also not great. They're not clicking right now. I feel like Chelsea in her mind is saying we're clicking, but in reality, on paper, Kwame's like, I don't know about you. I don't know about us. And I'm thinking to myself, alrighty, someone just gotta call it out, and y'all need therapy before you step up on the altar. Did that happen? Absolutely not. But Chelsea did ask Kwame if he can see himself saying yes at the altar, and Kwame says, I can. So they move on, and now Kwame is meeting more of Chelsea's family. However, you can tell Kwame doesn't want to be there based on body language. It was odd. Didn't really feel like the family was feeling it. There was some tension in the air, like unspoken tension. However, Chelsea was trying to mask it with her bubbly personality. So for the most part, though, I just didn't see that as a very good sign of things to come. However, eventually, as this week's episodes go on, we get introduced to a moment with them where they have a spicy photo shoot. I'm not talking about them just consuming large amounts of sriracha. I mean it. This was a spicy photo shoot. It was very intimate, and you can tell that they were maybe trying their best to be Calvin Klein models, but it kind of felt awkward as a viewer to watch them go through each pose. And then the photographer, bless his soul, was trying so hard to, I guess, figure out how to phrase certain things, like hold that angle, stay there, put your forehead on her chest. Like, how do you phrase these sort of things and direct them as a photographer? But he did a decent job. And then they have a conversation, a little one-on-one, heart-to-heart, in their Calvin Klein attire. And yeah, Kwame is starting to confuse me, because now Kwame is saying that the highs outweigh the lows. I just genuinely don't know what Kwame wants. I don't think he's ready for marriage, but it's interesting because he's so confident in some moments, and then he has to take a moment to think whenever he's asked about being ready for marriage by Chelsea. So eventually the conversation about Kwame's mother comes up and about her approval. So Kwame says he will call his mom again. I don't know if he really called his mom the first time, and the second time at least we hear the phone ring and get sent to voicemail, and then eventually I think Kwame's brother picks up or something like that. But they're really framing this as if Kwame's mom doesn't approve, this is Kwame's way out of getting married. So let's see what happens. Oh, and one more note before we move on to Paul and Micah. Kwame said Chelsea shouldn't take his name until he speaks to his mother. Here it goes again, y'all. He is back and forth like ping pong. It ain't great. So I just, again, my prediction, he says no at the altar. But we'll see what happens. Alrighty, y'all. Now we're going to transition to Paul and Micah because they don't have many notes. Paul said he is finally willing to try to move to Scottsdale, so he didn't say he would definitely do it and I'm excited. He said he's going to give it a shot, because initially, remember, he said he was not willing to move there completely or go back and forth between two properties. However, the reason why he's doing that is because of this. Paul said that he can't go 15 minutes without missing Micah, and Micah feels the same way. They're playing footsies, they're talking, they're nuzzling, oh, it's so cute. And they go to their Bachelor and Bachelorette parties, and like I mentioned before, Micah's like, yeah, I miss him. It's been like an hour and I can't stop thinking about him, which is endearing, yes. But at the same time, y'all, like, the clinginess, be careful there. We'll see what happens with that. I just think that they're the most boring couple still. Yeah, they're still the most boring couple. And before we move on to our next two engaged couples, I do have one note about Jackie and Marshall I forgot to mention. This is when they were still engaged, right? Marshall made a mistake in trying to pressure Jackie at like midnight after Chelsea's birthday party to have a conversation. You have to pick the right time and place to have a conversation like that. Maybe jot down some talking points on your own, Marshall, but have that conversation in the morning. Don't have it at midnight, because it didn't feel like that was the right time, and it ended up not being the right time. So yeah, that might have been one of those straws that broke the camel's back for Jackie kind of moments. But yeah, man, rest in peace to their relationship, because it didn't work out, man. Wow. Alrighty, y'all, so let's move on to Brett and Tiffany. So Tiffany is now meeting Brett's friends, and of course it goes well. basically everything went well when it came to them meeting their families. I mean, Tiffany met Brett's brother and father, and that went really well. The father is a sweetheart and had, you know, like that southern hospitality to him, and you can just tell, y'all, Brett and Tiffany, man, they just say I do. We're praying for you guys. Come on now. But yeah, so it was really nice. However, they did run into a stressful episode together, and that was Tiffany. I guess the pressure of getting married is all coming down on her shoulders in this one instance that was filmed, and Tiffany mentions that stress is getting to her. She said it's almost like she doesn't want a wedding. I think that, of course, she didn't mean that. Maybe she meant it in the moment, but she's maybe thinking of the pressures of a wedding, because later on, Brett's like, I got you, I'm here for you, girl, but I'm going to take you on a surprise date, and he does that to help ease her mind, and it is so beautiful. They go in this helicopter. He takes I guess he took photos of her engagement ring and then set it up with some beautiful dinner and stuff, and just Brett and Tiffany, man. How do you not love them? Come on. And lastly, Zach and Bliss, you guys. Ooh, boy, did they have a family gathering that didn't go so well. And that was with Zach and Bliss's dad and stepmom. Bliss's dad he's very against this entire process. You can tell he was not into it from the jump. He was making some off-the-cuff comments that I'm thinking, boy, you are petty. That is petty. But Bliss is upset with her father, and her father is clearly not supportive of this entire process, which makes things much more difficult on everybody, of course. And Bliss's stepmom is crying. It's all kind of a big old mess, but dad is clearly bored by the legal talk with Zach, and there's no relatable activities that Zach does for Bliss's dad. So, of course, you know, the dad is having a bit of a passive-aggressive conversation with Bliss, where he's basically saying, like, I don't understand any of this. Like, you go ahead, you live your life, you're making your own decisions, but just know it's the wrong one. We'll see what happens, because Bliss already kind of is standing her ground and sticking up for Zach and her engagement. However, there's that seed of doubt still in her mind, man, where she's having this conversation in the hot tub with Zach, and she basically says, like, you know, she's still thinking about the fact that she's number 2, you know, option number 2. It's not great that she keeps bringing that up, and I'm sure Zach is feeling like he's in hot water. No pun intended. But seriously, it's, I don't know, it can go either way with them. And Bliss is also very nervous about their family history and their history of divorce. Zach follows it up with, our connection is so strong. It was really weird editing, like I mentioned earlier. The editing was just odd in this moment. So there's a lot brewing towards the end of this week's episodes for Zach and Bliss. If you had to ask me, do they go and get married? You know what? I think Zach says yes. Unfortunately, I think Bliss says no. She's got way too much reservations, or way too many reservations at this point, especially with being option number 2. I think that's probably at the top of her list. So, oh boy, it's going to be interesting next week. Oh, before we even move on, I have one other note. When Zach met Bliss's mom and sisters, Bliss's mom is a sweetheart. She seems really genuine and clearly approves of them. However, Zach said something that made me raise my eyebrows. He said to everyone that he hasn't told a girl he loved them since he was 21. Unless he aged forward a year in this show, or was 21 before the show started, or in the first half of the season, he's wrong. Because, what the heck? Didn't he say he loved Irina? What? Weird, Zach. Get your story straight, homie. Alrighty, so we're getting into our very last section here. Weddings have begun. I'm surprised. I shouldn't be, because last season they did the same thing. You know, tease the entirety of the wedding scene and then transition into a coming up moment. Okay, but I was shocked that they actually decided to begin with Chelsea and Kwame, which, if you are a Love is Blind fan, can mean only one thing. So Kwame's brother and sister came to his wedding, and you know what? Kwame's sister, she seems like a real one. She's a praying woman, and so is Kwame's brother, a praying man. And they both seem like they're genuinely, you know, happy for their brother. They prayed together, but Kwame revealed, of course, he hasn't prayed since he was probably like 12. However, it is interesting to see the dynamic of their family. I still think that does not bode well for Chelsea, the fact that Kwame can't get over the hump in terms of his mom not approving of this process and of them. So it's really interesting. But Kwame just made it plain at one point. He said he has cold feet. So y'all, I don't know what's going to happen. I have a thought of what's going to happen, but I still am so Still confused. Chelsea's dad, though, Charlie, very, very supportive. Man, he was so sweet, and he said that he feels like they're genuine together, and man, go ahead, Charlie. So they get to the altar. They're doing their little things. They're making vows. Kwame and definitely... He had nice vows, like what he said sounded sweet, but I'm like, boy, if you say I don't, it's going to erase all that. So Chelsea says, I do. Camera pans over, cuts to Kwame, and then Kwame opens his mouth, or is about to, and we get cut to black. And now we gotta wait till episode 12. Oh man. So here's my thing. What's my prediction, right? I think Kwame says I don't. Come on, y'all. I mean, I would be lying to you if I told you I was confident in the fact that Kwame's going to say I do. Everything is stacking up against them, sadly. So, there you have it, y'all. That's my real review and recap of episodes 9 through 11 of Love is Blind Season 4. There's so much to talk about this week, so go ahead and get loud down below and leave me your thoughts, comments, and tell me if you agree with me on certain things or disagree. Give me your predictions. Who makes the cut and who doesn't, because I'm going to hold you all to it when we get into my reaction, review, and recap for next week's episode. Yes, that's episode 12, the finale. You can be right here, same time, same place. Actually, I might post it earlier. Who knows? I'm really excited about next week. So get subscribed to the channel, tap on that bell so you don't miss out, because there's so much more to talk about, and the live reunion reaction coming next Sunday night. So super pumped, y'all. It's been fun. It's been toxic when talking about Jackie, Marshall, and Josh. But you know what, Brett and Tiffany? They're our only hope. They're like the Obi-Wan of Love is Blind. They're seriously our only hope. But y'all, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Oh, this was so fun. I need to go de-stress. I need to de-stress. I'm gonna go pray. I'm gonna go enjoy Easter weekend. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.